Hello, 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 and welcome to a Sunday night live stream. I'm sorry that I'm a late, but I've all of my equipment was disconnected. That was a little annoying. I don't know how that happened, but all my equipment was disconnected. I had to reconnect everything. My name is Natalie. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and welcome to my channel. And the thing I used to say was, I've been a criminal defense attorney for this many years, this many years. This year marks almost 15 years of me being a criminal defense attorney. Yeah, just about. Am I thinking about this correctly? Yeah, I will be 15 years of practice this year. It is really nice to see all of you. Let's just kind of check in with each other. It is so nice to be back. Um, I have here my tea and my queen bee mug. And what tea is this? Twining immune support because I have been sick. And then this is my water. This video is brought to you by H2O. Yeah, so I've been sick and I was supposed to come back on, I think it was right after my trial. I put a community post. Somebody tell me what day that was that I put that up. I can't even remember. But I have been, your girl has been through it. Okay. Your girl has been going through it. So essentially, I let's see, started a homicide trial on December 9th, right? And that trial went from December 9th until December 21st, which is wild. I mean, jury selection in homicides does take a little longer than in non-homicide trials, but this one took a really long time. Nobody wanted to be in that jury, so it was really hard to get jurors in that one. That trial, I had amazing co-counsel with that. Shout out to you, you know who you are. And it went on for so long, I think until the 21st. And then the very next day, I flew out to, like, we were waiting for the jury's verdict and all types of stuff. The very next day, oh, and I had to like move my flight because I was supposed to start my Christmas vacation. So every year we go to California, then Vegas for Christmas. That's Brandon's family. So my in-laws side of things. I mean, it's my family too, but just to distinguish. And then we do Thanksgiving with my family in Brooklyn, which we did this year. So I had to fly to California, but my trial was going longer than anticipated. It was supposed to end on the 18th and it ended on the 21st. And then on the 21st. So it just kept going and going and going. So I had to move my flight. It was just a whole big mess. But I ended up finally getting out to California. So I'm like, okay, this is great. I'm going to stream. No, I was exhausted. This past year, 2024, hey guys, this past year, 2024, has been such an amazing year for my career. How can I put this? Like, as in, I have handled cases that have stretched me mentally. I have learned a lot. I have helped clients in ways that have touched my own heart. And you know that that's like why I do this job. It's for my clients, to serve them and to help a community of people who I think are like usually cast aside. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Hold on. There are like little fuzzies on the mic and it's really annoying me. Okay. That's a little better. It's not 100% better, but it's a little bit better. Okay. Okay. So I had an amazing time. And so we spent Christmas in California, and Vegas is where we did New Year's. Um, Brandon's family was completely fine with the fires that happened in Los Angeles. They were out of the way of that. That didn't affect them. But I want to send my heart out to everyone living in the Los Angeles area who was affected by those fires, because They happened right after we left California. We were already in Vegas by the time that they happened, but it was terrifying, just the images of it. And I just know that, you know, everyone kind of feels a certain way about celebrities. You love them, you hate them, whatever the case may be, but they're human beings. But it's not only celebrities that live in Los Angeles, right? It's not only Hollywood people that live in Los Angeles. It's regular people that live there that have now lost their homes. So it's very, very sad. And my heart goes out to everyone, every single person that was impacted by those fires. It's so tragic. I finally get back to the DC area. And we had a major snowstorm. I was supposed to arrive on January 5th. My flight got delayed. And then, so I don't get back. No, I was supposed to come back on January 4th. My flight got delayed until January 6th, which was the Monday. I was starting a murder trial on that day. And so I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, like how this is going to happen, because I am in Vegas. I don't know how I'm going to get back. And I'm trying to find all these flights to try to make it in time for my jury trial. I finally get to the DC area, and I land in DC, and then the weather is so bad that the courts are closed. So they continue court until January 8th, which is Wednesday, and we start the trial on January 8th. We went in the trial from January 8th until, let me tell you the exact date, that I just want you to kind of get a grasp of it. From January 8th until, here we go. Okay, yeah. So from January 8th is when I came back, and we ended the trial on Wednesday. No, was it Tuesday? Tuesday, January 28th. From the 8th until the 28th, I was in that trial. That was the 3 co-defendant jury trial, and that one was a not guilty. Well, it was a full acquittal. So it wasn't just a not guilty. It's not that it didn't go back to the jury. The judge found that there was not enough evidence to send the case back to the jury. So my client was acquitted, and so were the other co-defendants, their attorneys who represented them. So all 3 of the co-defendants were acquitted. MJOA, exactly, Jeremy. Exactly. So it was, that's extraordinary in a homicide case. I really want you guys to understand that like that's a really big deal, and that a lot of that had to do with the work that we had to put into the case leading up to it and during it. So it's been like 2 months of me being unable to create any content whatsoever, because first of all, when I'm in a trial, much less a homicide trial, I am not paying any attention to YouTube whatsoever. I'm not doing YouTube at all, like not even a little bit. Okay. All of my focus goes on my client. All of my focus goes on that particular case. So that's where I was. That's what I was doing. It was an amazing time. The trial itself, the most recent trial, was heart-wrenching and difficult because my client was young and the co-defendants were young. They were all high school students. They were children, essentially. I mean, they were charged as adults, but they were children. And I am almost going to get emotional. The day that my client was acquitted, he turned 19 years old. So it was on his birthday. I was very, very happy. And I know sometimes that people think like, oh, like you represent criminals. And I just don't agree with that characterization of human beings. But aside from that, whether someone did something or not has no impact whatsoever on, how I treat them and how I approach the case, because it's about the law and everything. But in this particular case, my client was innocent. And so were those other 2 kids. They were innocent. And so it was very difficult for me to stay on top of my game, or that was what I was focused on the most, was trying to divorce my feelings about the fact that I felt that the prosecution was wrong. I thought the premise of the prosecution was wrong. I just thought I thought the whole case was a miscarriage of justice. And so I kept checking in with myself to make sure that I wasn't snapping at people or the prosecutor or whatever, to be like, the f is wrong with you? Why are you prosecuting these kids? But anyway, it all came out the right way. I am so happy with how it came out. If it had come out the other way, you guys might never have seen me again. That case was I was so emotionally invested in that case and in that client, and happy birthday to him. And I'm so happy for all three of the co-defendants in that case. And my kudos go out to the other two counsels, sets of counsels who were representing the other co-defendants, because they were phenomenal as well, stepped up their game as well. And we just were doing the best that we could for our clients. It was like collaborating with some, it's nice to collaborate with different attorneys. And a lot of times when you have like, when all three of you are in trial together, when you're stuck in trial with two other co-defendants, you could be aligned or misaligned with the counsels. You guys could not have the same strategy. Your clients could be opposed to one another, but it just was kismet that it was advantageous to all of us to work together, and we did that, and it was to the benefits of the clients, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy. So anyway, moving on from that, our boy Diddy. The state's indictment, the federal government's indictment against Diddy, what it lacked, it had a lot of allegations, and that's what you need. You don't need to be super specific. You don't need to prove a case in a criminal indictment. But what it did lack was, okay, well, like, who's the victim of this? Who are you talking about here? Who are the victims? We're all thinking, okay, potentially Cassie, but it's Rico. Rico with one victim seems a little strange, because a Rico is a far-reaching conspiracy. It's an organization that's getting together in order to commit various criminal offenses, right? And it's racketeering, right? And so you would think that there would be multiple victims of this conspiracy, especially where they were alleging things like trafficking and stuff like that. So I think what's happened here, and what happens a lot of the times in criminal cases, Pebbles. Pebbles, this is a good question. I don't want to let this go. Pebbles says, was it a jury or a bench trial? It was a jury trial. But before you send the case, but after the state rests their case, before the defense puts on a case or rests, and then you send the case to the jury, you do a motion for judgment of acquittal, which in Maryland, and that's where you're asking the court to find that, viewing the evidence, even if you view the evidence in the light most favorable to the state. So take everything that the state has alleged in front of the jury as true. It has to be what was introduced in front of the jury, not things that are like known behind the scenes. Take everything that was alleged by the jury as true, right? Is that enough for the jury to even consider that this person could possibly be guilty of charged crime? Here it's murder, right? And so if you assume all the facts alleged were true, did the prosecution, right, lay a prima facie on its face case for murder? And I'll give a really, really good example, because, and this example I can give because that's not what happened in this case, but it's one of the common ways in which MJOA can be granted motion for judgment of acquittal. MJOA is very rare. Okay, it's very rare for that to be granted, but it basically has to mean that the state has not produced any evidence to meet one of the essential elements of the crime in their case. They've rested, they've put on all their evidence, and they haven't produced the evidence. So two ways that MJOA gets granted is they don't identify the defendant as the person who committed the crime. No one comes in and says, yes, that's him. Or no one even identifies the defendant, right? Like they don't say, like, this is the person that is charged. That happens rarely. The prosecutor made a mistake. They forgot to have your client identified during the trial. If they rest, MJOA will be granted because one of the elements has to be that this person committed the offense. Another one is jurisdiction. If no one comes in and says that this happened in Smith County, Utah, just made something up, right? This happened in Smith County, Utah. No one comes in and testifies to that under oath, then they have not established jurisdiction and MJOA will be granted. Okay. So it's like you just haven't produced any evidence to show this thing. And what it was here was intent, right? There was no evidence to show that any one of these charged co-defendants had any intent to kill anyone. And none of them had killed anyone. They hadn't, that was conceded by the state, right? They hadn't actually killed anyone. They hadn't shot anybody, stabbed anybody. They weren't actually the killers, right? But they were charged as though they were accessories. And so the court was saying that there's just not enough evidence to show that these people had any type of intent to commit murder, right? There's just no evidence of any type of intent whatsoever by the state, and it's their burden to prove that. And so the judge granted the motion, and I think that was the right thing to do. Okay, so I'm gonna remove that. I just wanted to kind of go through that with you. If you guys could be so kind as to do all the YouTubey things, as Emily D. Baker says, please make sure that you take off your shoes, get comfortable, and like the video. Sit back, relax. I'm going to take a sip of my thingy here. Oh, yeah. And let me just finish my story. I ultimately got very, very sick. Somebody in the courtroom was coughing with their mouth open and not wearing a mask. So you gotta pick a struggle, okay? You don't like to cover your mouth, then wear a mask. If you don't want to wear a mask, that's fine. Cover your mouth. This person did neither of those things and coughed right in my face and got me sick. I'm so mad. Delicious. Oh, that is such good tea. All right. So our boy Diddy is facing a superseding indictment. So what happened here is that the federal government, I said, like, they had kind of like a thin, as far as identifying particular victims was concerned, that was kind of thin. And I wasn't quite sure why that was. But I do know that the prosecution, while the case is pending, they have an ongoing ability to investigate a case. And they can, up until the time of the verdicts, up until the time that the jury goes back to deliberate, they can amend the indictment at any time, right? Now, there are certain things that can happen if they prejudice the parties by amending the indictment, but they can file what's called a superseding indictment, which is a whole new indictment, not amended, whole new indictment alleging in addition to allegations to what they had previously alleged against the defendant. And as long as there's enough time for defense counsel to prepare for trial with that, then that indictment is fine, because it's the government's job to indict a case or not. That's exclusively within their jurisdiction as members of the executive branch. They have the right to indict on pretty much anything, right? And so they have decided to file this superseding indictment. So we're going to take a look at it now. Diddy superseding indictment against Diddy. Okay, here we go. United States of America versus Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, aka P. Diddy, aka Diddy, aka PD. I've never seen him called PD, aka Love, aka Brother Love. No human being should need that many names. But I do think that, like, the reason he changed his name from Puff Daddy to P. Diddy was that someone had copyrighted his name and he couldn't use it anymore. I think that's what had happened with Puff Daddy. And that was like a while ago. That was a long time ago. Count 1, racketeering conspiracy. The grand jury charges. So, prosecutor will convene what's called a grand jury. That is a secret body that is comprised of members of the public, right? But it's a closed secret proceeding where the prosecutor will put on their case, sometimes through just a witness testimony. And a lot of the times it's based on hearsay. Someone said this, someone said that. It's usually 1 or 2 witnesses, usually law enforcement. They will, whoa. The Instacart order is here. It'll stop. And they return and say whether or not the person is going to be charged with the crime, right? And you have that old school saying, you can indict a ham sandwich. I'm about to close my office door 1 second. Welcome back to Natalie Lawyer Chick, where we do things super professional over here on my dog's bark. For decades, Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, aka P. Diddy, aka Diddy, aka PD, aka Love, the defendant, abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. To do so, Combs relied on the employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Number 2, Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, so on and so forth. The defendant, they are enjoying putting his name here because usually you would just say the defendant at this point, operated his business headquartered at various times in Manhattan and Los Angeles under a variety of United States-based corporate entities, including Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprises, and Combs Global, collectively the Combs business. Corporate entities in the Combs business included, among other things, record labels, a recording studio, an apparel line. I remember the apparel line, Sean John, an alcoholic spirits business, a marketing agency, and a television network and media company. And I think I've said this before, but I always think that it bears repeating. I am so disappointed in P. Diddy. I cannot say it enough. I am so disappointed. I grew up listening to all things Bad Boy. I know that I told you guys that um growing up, Biggie was my favorite rapper. He was my absolute favorite rapper. I know the lyrics to almost all of his songs. I went to elementary school when I was living in Brooklyn, and some of junior high school. So I love Brooklyn. It's close to my heart. And I am so angry at this man that is like the helm of a lot of 90s hip hop culture that became this huge mogul that achieved and accomplished so much, and he could not just be satisfied with that. Like, you beat the odds, man. You got so much. Like, why couldn't you just be satisfied with that? Hey, lady, I just don't understand it. It just blows my mind. It's like this type of stuff is about power and control, and he already had so much power and control. Why couldn't you just get it from the people that actually wanted to do it? And why'd you have to force people to do things they didn't want to do, allegedly? I just don't get it. At all times relevant to this indictment, Sean Combs engaged in a persistent and pervasive pattern of abuse towards women and other individuals. This abuse was at times verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual. As part of his pattern of abuse, Combs manipulated women to participate in orchestrated performances of SA with Combs, and at times with Combs and male commercial workers. At times, Combs and others acting at his direction made arrangements for women and commercial workers to fly to Combs' location. Combs ensured participation from the women by, among other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them, controlled their careers, leveraging his financial support, and threatening to cut off the same, and using intimidation and violence. So here's the thing: coercion, right? Obtaining sex through coercion, depending on the type of coercion, can or cannot be a crime, right? Mostly, usually, it is not. I really think when you veer over into allegedly violence, that's when you're going to run into some issues, right? That's when you're going to run into some problems with the law. There's a bunch of icky, unethical behavior out there as it involves sex and power that is legal. And then they're alleging here that Combs crossed over into the illegal territory. A big part of Combs's defense is going to be consent, that ultimately they consented, that they wanted to take drugs, they wanted to participate in this type of sex, and they wanted to do that in order to advance their careers, and that was their own independent decision as adults. The problem that Combs is going to have in response is that elevator video, right? The elevator video of the assault. He's going to have a lot of problems with that because that is evidence of violence. Whether or not that's it within the context of a freak off, because that is a question that remains. Was that really just Diddy and Cassie breaking up? Or was that him coercing her and forcing her to go into a freak off? Or is that just evidence that he's willing to use that type of violence against her in a public space, a hotel hallway? So then why wouldn't he use violence against her behind closed doors? Again, it's a very complex issue and case, and anything to do with people's sexual proclivities will always be difficult because rarely is there filming going on in the bedroom, and so you have to just pick who you believe. Physical abuse by Combs was recurrent and widely known. On numerous occasions from at least in or about 2009 and continuing for years, Combs assaulted women by, among other things, striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects at, and kicking them. Combs's violence was not limited to these women. It extended to his employees, witnesses to his abuse. We remember that I think they said it was Wale that he dangled out of a window, or somebody that was with Wale that he dangled out of a window, allegedly. He also allegedly, but this has been confirmed by Kid Cudi, but he hasn't been convicted of it. So I have to say that, legally speaking, so I don't get sued. But he allegedly set Kid Cudi's car on fire, had it blown up. So there is evidence of him using violence against other people in order to get what he wants. Um, on one occasion at a Los Angeles hotel in or about March 2016, which was captured on video and later publicly reported. This is the Cassie video. Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a woman as she was attempting to leave. When a member of the hotel security staff intervened, Combs attempted to bribe that staff member to ensure silence. And again, him being so comfortable doing that could be evidence that he's done it previously, or it could be evidence that he just like lost control and snapped in that moment and he's never done it before, right? It's going to all come down to testimony. Subsequently, Combs, with the assistance of several close associates, paid hotel security staff $100,000 for the hotel's surveillance footage of the assault. I have to catch my breath. Sean Combs, the defendant, used the Combs business, including certain employees, to carry out, facilitate, and cover up his acts of violence, abuse, and commercial sex. Those employees, including security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and high-ranking supervisors, and other close associates, acted as Combs's intermediaries, and their conduct was facilitated and assisted by Combs's control of the Combs business. From at least in or about 2004 through in or about 2024, the defendant and others, known and unknown, were members and associates of a criminal organization. Members of the associates of the Combs enterprise engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other activities, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purposes of prostitution, coercion and enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotics offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. The Combs enterprise, including its leadership, its members, and its associates, constituted an enterprise as defined by Title 18 of the United States Code 1961, subsection 4. That is a group of individuals associated in fact, although not a legal entity. The Combs enterprise consisted of 1. Sean Combs, 2. Entities within the Combs business, including business, including but not limited to Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprise, and Combs Global. 3. Individuals employed by and associated with the Combs business. And 4. Others known and unknown. They can request what's called a bill of particulars in order to get more specific information about who they're talking about. Who are these particular individuals as people that they conspired with? That's something that I would be seeking on this superseding indictment, right? Who are you talking about? I want more specificity than this. 8. The Combs Enterprise constituted an ongoing organization whose members function as a continuing unit for a common purpose of achieving the objectives of the Combs Enterprise. The Combs Enterprise was engaged in and its activities affected interstate and foreign commerce. The Combs Enterprise operated in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere. At all times relevant to this indictment, Sean Combs, the defendant, was the leader of the Combs Enterprise. Sean Combs and others, known and unknown, participated in unlawful and other activities related to the conduct of the Combs Enterprise affairs. These individuals included certain Combs business employees, such as members of Combs security staff, household staff, personal assistants, high-ranking supervisors, as well as other close associates of Combs. Purpose of the Combs Enterprise. The purpose of the Combs Enterprise included the following: operating a global business in the media, entertainment, and lifestyle industries, including, among other things, record labels, a recording studio, an apparel line, an alcoholic spirits business, a marketing agency, and a television network and media company. Preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power, reputation, and brand of Sean Combs as a musician, entrepreneur, and figure in the entertainment industry. Enriching members and associates of the enterprise, including its leader, Combs, and in particular those who demonstrated loyalty to Combs with willingness to conceal his crimes. Preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power of the Combs enterprise, including the power of its leader, Combs, through violence, use of firearms, threats of violence, coercion, and verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. Fulfilling the personal desires of Combs, particularly those related to Combs's sexual gratification, including through the exploitation of women and the use of commercial sex workers. Enabling Combs and other members and associates of the Combs enterprise to engage in unlawful acts of violence, including sexual violence, trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purpose of prostitution, coercion, and enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotics distribution, and other crimes, and concealing the commission of such acts. Securing absolute loyalty from members of the Combs enterprise, including through acts of violence and threats, and protecting the Combs enterprise and its members and associates, including Combs, from detection and prosecution by law enforcement authorities through acts of intimidation, manipulation, bribery, and threats of retaliation against individuals who witness the crimes committed by members and associates of the enterprise. Means and methods of the enterprise. Among the means and methods by which Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, etc., and other members and associates of the Combs enterprise conducted and participated in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs enterprise include the following. Combs and other members and associates of the enterprise wielded the power and prestige of his role at the Combs business to intimidate, threaten, and lure female victims into Combs's orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship. I like how they put that, the pretense of a romantic relationship. Because a lot of the times in these abusively sexual relationships with these powerful people, the person that they can say, oh, this is my girlfriend, that wasn't your girlfriend. Okay. You were pimping her. You were pimping her. You were abusing her. It was the pretense of a romantic relationship. Okay. You were using her as a tool to get what you wanted. Allegedly. Woo, the tea is piping hot. Combs then used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims, including but not limited to 3 female victims. So this is different because before we just had victim 1, unknown Cassie, basically. And now I want to hear about these other victims that are allegedly in here. Victim 1, victim 2, victim 3, to engage in commercial sex acts. In connection with the commercial sex acts, Combs provided the victims with, among other things, monetary payments, career opportunities, and payments of rent and housing expenses. So it is not illegal to have a girlfriend and she does the things that you like to do in bed. And so you have money and she doesn't have to pay for anything. That is not a crime in and of itself, right? It's the other surrounding circumstances that crosses the line between this is a relationship with a power differential, or where one partner in the relationship has much more money than the other, maybe even more control than the other, more age than the other, more experience, more clout in the industry. And there's a line where it crosses over into now you are abusing this person systemically, and you're using your abuse of them in order to commit other crimes, right? Some of the commercial sex acts involve male commercial sex workers and were referred to by Combs as, among other things, freak-offs. Freak-offs were elaborate. It's so crazy how when Cassie dropped her lawsuit last year, was it October? I feel like it was October. When Cassie dropped her lawsuit last year, or maybe it was even earlier, the term freak off lit up social media. It was everywhere in the news. And now it's become a part of the lexicon. It's become something that we just say, right? In reference to things like this and this in particular. And it doesn't sound as foreign and strange and crazy anymore. That's kind of crazy. In arranging these freak-offs, Combs, with the assistance of other members and associates of the Combs enterprise, transported and caused to be transported commercial sex workers across state lines and internationally. Freak-offs occurred regularly, sometimes lasted multiple days, and often involved multiple commercial sex workers. During freak-offs, Combs distributed a variety of controlled substances to victims. Combs kept videos he filmed of victims engaging in sex acts with commercial sex workers. And again, you have to think about the defense in each of these cases, right? We are seeing the media frenzy. We are seeing what the prosecution wants us to know about. We are seeing, what Combs is putting out there from his family and things like that, and his spokespeople and all that type of stuff. We don't know what the actual facts are going to bear out. So we have to think about what the potential defense side of things could be as well. That's not me excusing anything, but it's helping us to think critically through these types of cases. And I've had it where there's been another case that's been in the news and I've covered it with you guys. And I'm like, look, the defense side of this is XYZ. And I'll invariably get someone in my comments saying, like, why the hell would you tell us about the defense side? Are you sticking up for this monster? And it's like, well, I'm a defense attorney, and I would hope that what I bring to this medium is an understanding of how a defense counsel would defend a case like this. So if I were defense counsel, I would be going into, at the time, in your mind, you were consenting to this. You consented to sex. You consented to taking drugs. You wanted sex. You wanted drugs. You wanted money. This was a mutually beneficial relationship. You wanted to participate in freak-offs at the time. And now that it's no longer to your benefit, or you wanted to make additional money, now you're accusing Combs of forcing you. But all that time, it was consensual. That is what you're going to hear from the defense, is that it's consensual. Okay. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise, including high-ranking, because for this to be RICO, I don't think that consensual sex is going to make it a racketeering industry. It has to be for the purpose of committing criminal acts. And the criminal acts was the coercion and control and sexual exploitation of Cassie and other victims. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise, including high-ranking supervisors, security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and other Combs business employees, facilitated the freak-offs, among other things. Booking hotel rooms for the freak-offs, stocking the hotel rooms in advance with the required freak-off supplies, including controlled substances, baby oil, lubricant, extra linens, and lighting. Cleaning the hotel rooms after the freak-offs to try to mitigate room damage, arranging for travel for victims, commercial sex workers, and Combs to and from freak-offs, resupplying Combs with requested supplies, delivering large sums of cash to Combs to pay the commercial sex workers, and scheduling the delivery of IV fluids. In or about March 2024, during searches of Combs' residence in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California law enforcement seized various freak-off supplies, including narcotics and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. Now, as somebody who is a member of the African American community, we don't like to be ashy. So quite a few of us have baby oil in the house. Ain't none of y'all got 1,000 bottles of baby oil in the house, okay? Baby oil is a part of the regime, with the lotion for a lot of people, but you don't have 1,000 bottles of baby oil in the house. That is very, very strange. That is strange. And I think his own lawyer said something like, oh, like people buy in bulk from Costco. I don't have 1,000 of anything in my house, okay? I'm not Diddy. I'm not wealthy, but I don't have 1,000 of anything in my house. 1,000 bottles of baby oil is bizarre, okay? Even if there's no criminal intent going on there, even if they were not holding people against their will and coercing them into these elaborate sex displays, 1,000 bottles of baby oil is beyond the pale of strangeness. Okay, that's not even a legal opinion. That's just a human opinion. That is a strange thing to have 1,000 bottles of. It is strange to have if you had 1,000 bottles of barbecue sauce in your house right now, I would look at you funny. Okay, that's very strange. Other commercial sex acts included only Combs and a female victim. As with freak-offs, other members and associates of the Combs enterprise assisted with arrangements for these commercial sex acts, including by arranging travel and accommodations for victims. At times, Combs, with the assistance of other members and associates of the enterprise, transported and caused to be transported victims across state lines. That gets the feds involved. If you're moving people across state lines for the purpose of prostitution, if you're moving drugs across state lines for the purpose of distributing those drugs, if you're moving funds across state lines or across the wires or through the banking system in order to commit crimes, you are drawing the attention of the federal government because that is their jurisdiction. Like the freak-offs, these commercial sex acts involved Combs and a female victim were prearranged, sometimes lasted multiple days, were sometimes electronically recorded by Combs, and often involved Combs distributing a variety of controlled substances to the victim, in part to keep the victim obedient and compliant. Combs subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse to cause victims to engage in freak-offs and other commercial sex acts. Combs maintained control over his victims through, among other things, physical violence, promises of career and financial opportunities, granting and threatening to withhold financial support, and other coercive means, including trafficking their whereabouts, dictating the victim's appearance, monitoring their medical records, controlling their housing, and supplying them with controlled substances. DJ, come here. Here, buddy. Come. Good boy. Say hi to DJ. Hello. Look, we look alike. Oh, looks just like his mama. Mm. Good boy. Combs subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse to cause the victims to engage in freak-offs and other commercial sex acts. Combs maintained control over his victims through, among other things, physical violence, promises of career and financial opportunities, granting, threatening to withhold financial support, and by other coercive means, including tracking their whereabouts, dictating their appearance, monitoring. Okay, I already said that. Okay. These assaults was during and separate from the freak-offs, sorry, and other commercial sex acts. Combs, among other things, hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims at times by their hair. These assaults often resulted in injuries that took days or weeks to heal. Following the assaults, Combs, with the assistance of members and associates of the enterprise, frequently worked to conceal his misconduct by offering to provide medical assistance or other financial benefits to the victims. So right here, we're starting page 8. We're at the halfway point of this document. So I'm going to check in with you guys for a little bit. 1,000 cat hairs. Everyone's saying hi to you, DJ. Oh my goodness. A member of the jury says, I do have over 1,000 jar of jams and jellies and fruit, but I also have an orchard. Orchard. Oh my gosh, I am so jealous of you. I tried to plant one fruit tree in the backyard in June. They died. No, it was 2. It was 2, but you're supposed to plant 2 different things so that they could pollinate each other. It was the same thing. It was too hot when I planted it. The poor roots were all burnt up, and those 2 trees died. I wanted fruits so bad. This is like my lifetime goal is to have fruits. I started a garden last summer or last spring, and I'm going to revive it this year. Actually, there's some things I need to put in the raised garden beds I have out there now. And I always wanted to have fruits. And I did get some strawberries, not that many, just a few. But yeah, I am so jealous of you. 1,000 jars of jams and jellies and fruits is completely acceptable. That is the only exception. The only exception. Okay. Now, while we're here at the halfway point, I'm going to just pause for the cause because I have a cold and I need to blow my nose, and you don't need to see or hear that. So, one moment. I'm back. There are 600 of you here, which is amazing. Thank you to all 600 of you. That's a very crowded party. Make sure that you like the video so that we can let everyone know that we're here. I hope that you're all enjoying yourselves as we're going through this and kind of learning about how it is that we've got a superseding or new indictment filed against Diddy for similar accusations, the same accusations, but they're adding more victims in. Combs also threatened victims' careers and livelihoods, including if they resisted engaging in sex acts with Combs. See, now if you say, if you don't have sex with me, you're going to lose your job, that's not consensual sex, okay? If you don't have sex with me, you're going to lose your contract that you rely on to feed your family and to advance your career. That is not consent, okay? That's not consent. So that's what they're alleging, non-consensual sex over and over and over again. Victims believe they could not refuse Combs's demands without risking their financial or job security or without repercussions in the form of physical or emotional abuse. Combs also used sensitive, embarrassing, and incriminating recordings that he made during the freak-offs as collateral to ensure the continued obedience and silence of the victims. I want to know if they actually have any of these alleged videos. I am so curious about that because they raided him, but after Cassie's lawsuit, he pretty much knew something was probably going to happen. So could he have gotten rid of stuff? Could they have never existed? Or did they actually get any videos? I'm curious to see. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise, including Combs' personal security, at times carried firearms. On more than one occasion, Combs himself carried or brandished firearms to intimidate and threaten others, including victims and witnesses to his abuse. In or about March 2024, it's so weird that they say in or about, but I guess they mean around the time of, so they won't say on because they don't have an exact date. But I usually say on or about, but they say in or about. That's interesting. In or about March 2024, during searches of Combs' residence in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California, law enforcement seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 AR-15s. Because you see the difference here? They say that and multiple times they've said this, in the previous indictment, in the press releases, they've said that they've seized guns, but I don't see where they've said that they've seized video. So they're alleging these videos existed in order to coerce women to be compliant, but I'm just not sure if that means that those videos will become a part of the record in the trial itself. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise enabled Combs' control over victims by following his directions regarding financial payments to victims, victims, advancing or suppressing the victims' careers opportunities, and acquiring the controlled substances Combs used to keep the victims compliant. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise at times witnessed Combs' violence towards the victims or the victims' injuries caused by Combs without intervening. Instead, members and associates of the Combs enterprise helped conceal the violence and abuse by, among other things, assisting Combs in monitoring and preventing victims from leaving locations. Cassie talked about this in her lawsuit, that his grand enterprise would conspire together to keep her from being able to get away, keeping her locked in her hotel room so that people couldn't see her bruises and injuries. Like working, like he had a network working at his behest because of all of his money. Assisting Combs in monitoring and preventing victims from leaving locations such as hotels or Combs' residence. Yeah, this tracks one-on-one with what Cassie put in her lawsuit. These occasions included instances in which a victim was required to remain in hiding. This is Cassie saying that. So they're talking about they're making it seem like it's multiple incidents. I'm wondering if it's only with Cassie, which is fine. But I'm just curious because that's exactly what Cassie says, that he had physically assaulted her quite brutally, that she was very badly bruised. I think she took pictures of it, but he kept her in the hotel room and used his staff in order to force her to stay in the hotel room, essentially. Sometimes for several days at a time, to recover from injuries Combs inflicted without being publicly observed. Members and associates of the enterprise also assisted Combs in locating and contacting victims who attempted to flee his abuse. And this is also something that Cassie has alleged. So I was hoping for a bit more particularity to particular victims, And if we're fighting a superseding, I want to see some differences than other than just saying victim 1, 2, and 3. But we're only on page 9, so let's see. When employees, witnesses to his abuse, or others threaten Combs' authority or reputation, Combs and members and associates of the enterprise engage in acts of violence, threats of financial and reputational harm, and verbal abuse. These acts of violence included arson and multiple acts of kidnapping, including one instance of kidnapping during which Combs carried and displayed a firearm. In addition, on multiple occasions, Combs threw both objects and people, as well as hit, dragged, choked, and shoved others. On one occasion, Combs dangled a victim over an apartment balcony. That is something I told you guys about as well at the beginning of this. I mean, just absolutely horrendous and terrifying. When Combs' authority or reputation was threatened by the possibility of negative publicity or legal or law enforcement action against him, including in or about late 2023, following public allegations of Combs' crimes, Combs and members and associates of the enterprise pressured witnesses and victims. And this is where you really get in trouble, the cover-up, trying to pressure people into not testifying or changing their story, when if you left it alone, just let your lawyer deal with forcing the state to meet its burden to prove that it's a RICO beyond a reasonable doubt, right? Instead, now you're going behind the scenes trying to pressure people into not talking, and that will make you look guilty, number one, show consciousness of guilt, number two, and lead to new charges, number three. Provided these victims and witnesses with a false narrative of events in an effort to conceal Combs' crimes. Combs caused these calls to be recorded on at least 2 occasions. On phone calls, Combs and other members. Okay, so I missed that part. The racketeering conspiracy. So here's the conspiracy itself. This is the real narrative here for the next 6 pages. From at least in or about 2004 through in or about 2024, in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Sean Combs and others, known and unknown, being persons employed by and associated with the Combs enterprise, described in paragraphs 6 through 12 of this indictment, enterprise engaged in and the activities of which affected interstate and foreign commerce, meaning that his activities had to do with like sending money back and forth to other states or across, to other countries, essentially. If you're selling things, he sells music. He has international contracts. He pays people. All of that affects interstate and international commerce. Knowingly combined, conspired, confederated, and agreed together and with each other to violate the racketeering laws of the United States. There were multiple acts involving kidnapping, charged under the California Penal Code, kidnapping, aiding and abetting, attempt at kidnapping, conspiracy, kidnapping under the New York Code, attempt at kidnapping under the New York Penal Code, and aiding and abetting, and conspiracy. Multiple acts involving arson, chargeable under the following provisions of state law: California Penal Code, Section 451, arson, California Penal Code, Section 21A, attempt, aiding and abetting, and California Penal Code, conspiracy. Multiple acts involving bribery under the California Penal Code. Multiple acts indicted. The arson, that's Kid Cudi's car getting blown up. Multiple acts for relating to tampering with a witness, that's under the U.S. Code, and relating to forced labor under the U.S. Code, and related to trafficking under the U.S. Code, and related to illegal prostitution activities under the U.S. Code. Multiple offenses for the possession with intent to distribute narcotics, including cocaine, oxycodone, alprazolam. Oh, I'm going to try to read that. Methylene-dioxymethamphetamine. Methylene-dioxymethamphetamine. Dimethoxyphenethylamine. Dimethoxy, I've never seen that word before. Gamma hydroxybutyric acid, ketamine, psilocybin or psilocin, methamphetamine, in violation of Title 21 United States Code, Section 841. ABBBB, and 846, distribution and possession with intention to distribute, and conspiracy to do the same, and aiding and abetting in those crimes. It was a part of the conspiracy that Sean Combs agreed that a conspirator would commit at least 2 of the racketeering activities. Notice a special sentencing factor. From at least in or about 2009 up to and including in or about 2018 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere. As part of this agreement to conduct and participate in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activities, Sean Combs, the defendant, agreed to, in and affecting interstate and foreign commerce, knowingly recruit, entice, harbor, transport, provide, obtain, advertise, maintain, patronize, and solicit by any means a person, knowing and in reckless disregard of the fact that means and force, threats of force, fraud, and coercion, and any combination such means would be used to cause a person to engage in a commercial sex act. So it enhances the sentence, which means gives you more time. It opens you up to being convicted to more time because there was coerced sex involved, and coerced sex trafficking involved. Count 2, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. So if this count is proven, then the sentence for the racketeering will be enhanced in addition to the penalties that you would get for count 2. From at least in or about 2009 up to and including in or about 2018 in the Southern District of New York. So I think this is the duration of Cassie and Diddy's relationship, 2009 to 2018. The defendant in and affecting interstate foreign commerce knowingly recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, provided, obtained, advertised, maintained, patronized, and solicited by any means a person, knowing and in reckless disregard of the fact that means of force, threat of force, fraud, and coercion, and any combination of such means would be used to cause the person to engage in a commercial sex act. So you either yourself directly or cause someone else to use force, threats of force, coercion to force someone to engage in prostitution. Okay. And attempted, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused the same, to wit, Combs recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, and maintained victim 1, that's Cassie, and attempted, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused victim 1 to engage in commercial sex acts, knowing and in reckless disregard of the fact that victim 1 was engaging in commercial sex acts as a result of force, fraud, and coercion. So you made Cassie engage in sex acts, forced sex acts that were commercial in nature, meaning they were in exchange for money. And you knew that she was being forced to do that. That was not of her own free will. Okay. Count 3, transportation to engage in prostitution. From at least in or about 2009 up to and including in or about 2024 in the Southern District of New York, the defendant knowingly transported individuals in interstate and foreign commerce with intent that the individuals engage in prostitution, and attempted, aided, and abetted, and willfully caused the same. So you paying for plane tickets, you got a bus, you're getting Ubers, whatever, and you're crossing state lines with prostitutes, you run afoul of transportation to engage in prostitution. Forfeiture allegations. As a result of committing the offense alleged in count 1, which is RICO, the defendant shall forfeit to the United States, pursuant to Title 18, any and all interest the defendant acquires or maintain in violation of Title 18. Section 1962, any and all interest in securities of, claims against, and property or contractual rights of any kind, affording a source influence over the enterprise named and described herein, which the defendant established, operated, controlled, conducted, and participated in. So he's got to give up his stuff. You got to give up your shit if you lose the RICO. Okay, so if he's convicted of the RICO, he's going to have to forfeit anything that went into that RICO. And this is a widespread conspiracy. They're going to try to come for everything. So not only will they try to put him in prison, they will try to take everything, all of his money, all of his assets, all of his holdings. As a result of committing an offense alleged in count 2 of this indictment, Sean Combs, the defendant, shall forfeit to the United States any and all property, real and personal, involved in, used, or intended to be used to commit or facilitate the commission of racketeering. As a result of committing, count 2 was the prostitution, was the sex trafficking. Count 3 was the transportation. So racketeering, sex trafficking, transportation. If he's convicted of any of those, he has to give up all of his real estate holdings and all of his assets, his interests, his money, everything. They want it all to be forfeited. And what they would normally do is pay out a fund to the victims, and then the rest goes over to the government. You don't get to keep the proceeds from racketeering. Substitute assets provision. If any of the above described forfeitable property as a result of any act or omission of the defendant cannot be located upon the exercise of due diligence, so like he tries to get rid of stuff or hide it, has been transferred or sold or deposited with a third party, he tries to sell it, right, to get rid of it before the case is concluded because it's not looking good for him. So it's not mine anymore. So I sold it, but it's really a sell, and like just to keep the government from getting their hands on it, has been placed beyond the jurisdiction of the court, meaning that you send it to an overseas bank or something like that, has been substantially diminished in value. You spend off all your money because you're like, the feds are going to get it anyway, has been commingled with other property, which means that you buy property with somebody else, like some big mogul as well, so that your funds are commingled and they can't easily extract it out. It is the intent of the United States, pursuant to Title 18, United States Code Section 1963M, Title 21, United States Code Section 853P, Title 28, United States Code Section 2461C, to seek forfeiture of any other property the defendant up to the value of the above forfeitable property. So you have any other property that was not used in the RICO, now we get to come for that. Okay. That is it. So what do I think about this new superseding indictment? This to me is not as particularized as I was hoping that it would be. I was hoping that what we were going to see, I'm just now realizing that like I got like a samurai knot going on. I went to the gym, guys. I went to the gym and I'm still like in my gym clothes from the gym. I just like kind of washed my face and sat down here to talk to you all. So excuse me, I'm not that put together today, but ain't nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with just coming as your natural self, your natural unmakeup sweaty self every once in a while. But no, I was really hoping for them to be more particularized about other victims that they're talking about. Now I do know that they say that a victim was dangled out of a window. Is that person going to come and testify? Is that in furtherance of the racketeering, or is that just Diddy being a bad person? You know, like who particularly are you talking about is what I wanted to know. But no such luck. No such luck. 1 second. Gotcha, you're hilarious. All right. So now that we have gone through that, I would love to know what your guys' thoughts are on the superseding indictment. We do have some very interesting super chats and things like that. Very interesting super chat. We have some super chats that we need to go through. We're going to go through those. And if you guys have any questions, go ahead and let me know. Okay, here we go. Let's get to these super chats. Cameo Stark, member for 25 months. Thank you so much. We are so proud of you, a true hero. Thank you. I'm no hero. I'm just doing my job, but I can't tell you, ecstatic about the outcome of that case. Really and truly. I would have been again, if I had lost, y'all want to see me again. I was so hurt. Jackie, thank you for this for being a member for 18 months, 15 months, and says, congratulations, Nat. Thank you so much. Equality, I know that you just stepped out, but nice to see you again. Like, really, like one of the MVPs of LawTube. How much you care about clients is inspiring. Thank you so much. Enchanted Wolf, let me give you a baby one. Ah, woo. Okay. You're awesome defense lawyer. Thank you. I appreciate that. Miss Savvy and Cool has been a member for 11 months and says, you're so inspiring, Night. Thank you for all you do. Thank you. Enchanted Wolf gifted 5 Natalie Lawyer Chick memberships. Thank you so much, Enchanted Wolf. Lady T, thank you so much, Lady Girl. I've missed you so much. Thank you so much, Lady. Equality has gifted 5 Natalie Lawyer Chick memberships. Thank you. Equality has sent us a Canadian $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Missed you so much. I have missed you as well, so much. But I knew you were working hard for your clients. I can't stay very long as this case is too much for me, but always appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And SJ is a new member. Welcome to the Lawyer Chicklets. Thank you so much, you guys. You guys are awesome. We covered this in a good amount of time. I think an hour is perfect. I look forward to seeing all of you guys in the next video. Our next video will be a morning docket during the week, and then I hope to do another one of these live streams over the weekend. I'll see you guys in the next video. Oh, wait, should I cover the Blake Lively back and forth lawsuit situation? Thank you, Susanna. Thank you so much. Thank you. Tell me right now, comment down below. Should I cover the Blake Lively situation? Yes or no? Yes. Says E150 gal. Cover the Blake Lively situation? Yes. Yes. Brittany says yes. Yes. Too much PR. Okay. New stuff was released in the BL situation. Yes. Yes. No, says Pamela. No. Okay. No, Blake Lively. Yes. I do want to hear your take on it. Yes. Yes. Hildebrand? Jody Hildebrandt. There's a Jody Hildebrandt lawsuit. Oh, that's more my speed. Okay, so I want to cover Blake Lively. Please no, please. Okay, here's the thing. I want to cover Blake Lively and Justin Balderoni, or whatever his name. I don't know. I don't care about either of those people. Only reason I would be covering it is because people are interested in it, but I care more about Jody Hildebrandt. It's a criminal case originally. ASAC Rocky, please, and Hildebrandt first. Okay. I'm sorry. I just don't care about Blake Lively or that other guy. That's not anything. That's not anything against them because I don't know them. But like, I think if I remember correctly, Blake Lively is from Gossip Girl. And do you know that I have never seen a single episode of that? And then also like, I don't know. I just don't care. Like, no one died. It's fine. It's just enough. ASAP and Hildebrandt. Okay. Or Blake Lively. We'll see. And they said the filings are super long. That might go against it. Hildebrand is more interesting. Hildebrand it is. And then we'll do some ASAP Rocky. Okay. I'll do like a one of those like recap videos. I'll react to one of those. Jody Hildebrandt and ASAP. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna do what's interesting to me. And honestly, that was a part of like one of the reasons I didn't come back for a while because I saw that like that lawsuit was like the front and center on here. And I was like, why does anyone care about these rich people and their problems? People are dying, Kim. It's so long. Okay, good to know. Okay. Okay, thank you. You guys, I love you so much because you guys are like, yes, cover it. And I don't want to like put aside you guys that do want to cover it. So, no, I love you guys. Thank you so much. But I just don't care about those people. I don't care. Who gives a damn? It is literally rich people problems. That's all it is. Rich people problems. All right, guys. So I'll see you all later. Have a good night. I'll talk to you in the next live stream. Make sure that you subscribe if you haven't. Like the video before you leave. Bye.